Warning, before watching this video, make sure you have watched the entirety of Season 2 and the 5 episodes of the past name series so far. If you do not do so, you will be spoiled of previous results that I'm going to be talking about in this video. I'll give you 10 seconds. Okay, now that's over with, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hello everybody, this is Hypersonic and welcome back to the Sonic CD Passing Comparison Series. In the previous episode, the Japanese soundtrack won Star Sweep Pass by just as much as the US soundtrack won Quartz Quadrant Pass, which those margins were some of the biggest that we have ever seen so far in this entirety of the comparison series across the entire channel, regardless if it was Season 1, Season 2, or the Passing Comparison Series. In today's episode of the Passing Comparison Series, we'll be going to Metallic Madness Past, which, as I stated, is the last of the past themes chronologically. I'm going to be doing this because it makes things all the more interesting. It's 2 for the Japanese soundtrack and it's 3 for the American soundtrack. The Japanese soundtrack needs an entire streak of the remaining 2 rounds in order to win, whereas the US soundtrack, all it has to do is just win 1 of the 2 rounds. Will the Japanese soundtrack build up a streak, or will the American soundtrack win in today's round? Time to find out in a few minutes. Let's go to Metallic Madness Past. Metallic Madness Past. This place is a symbol of Eggman's corruption of the timeline of Little Planet. This was not originally intended to be here, but Eggman built it so he can scheme his plot of taking over Little Planet and corrupting it for good. However, there is a hero that came here to save Little Planet from such a fate, and that hero is Sonic the Hedgehog. Aside from that description of Metallic Madness, it is quite clearly a factory being built. It is the most advanced area in the past overall on Little Planet. Even more so than Wacky Workbench Past, which was already very advanced technologically speaking. This is also 1 out of 2 time zones in Metallic Madness where you actually get to see the outside. And it is 2 of the only times you'll ever get to see the outside in a factory level. Round 6. Metallic Madness Past. Here's the Japanese version. And now for the American version. let's compare. The Japanese version of Metallic Madness Pass fits the Pass time zone alongside fitting the final level feel. It is very technologically advanced. Out of all the Pass themes of the Japanese soundtrack, this is the most technologically advanced. And that makes sense because Metallic Madness Past is the most technologically advanced Past. And a big reason for that is because Eggman built this. This was not originally on Little Planet. Metallic Madness is the prime example of Eggman's corruption of the planet. This was an ocean a long time ago on Little Planet, but now that ocean is not as big as it used to be. It's built with metal on it, and it's very noticeable on Little Planet. If you look at the world map, you actually can see that a lot of the planet, which would have been an ocean, is filled with metal, and Metallic Madness just only has metal in it. There isn't that much plant life on Metallic Madness. That's a very good detail. But back to how well this track fits and how good it is. I think this clearly fits Metallic Madness, and I clearly think this fits Metallic Madness Pass. It has very good instrumentation use. I love the usage of the bass line. Just like how the Present Theme's bass line was very good, I think the bass line here was pretty good. I like how certain parts of this track sound kind of dangerous, adding more to that final level feel. And this track would kind of fit Eggman. I wouldn't say kind of, but it would definitely fit Eggman's bass. This clearly sounds like Eggman's bass. And I like that. And as for the American version of Metallic Madness Past, the intro alone already shows that this is Metallic Madness's past in the American soundtrack, just like how the Japanese version did as well. I like the intro of this song a lot. I think that it is its strongest point. I like how soothing it is with the machinery in the background. I like how it fits the colors of the level, which the colors of the level look like a little bit of a sunrise. I like that. And that fits even more to the past theme feel of this level, as if it's the dawn of Metallic Madness, the beginning of its time on Little Planet, even though it wasn't intentionally supposed to be here in the first ever timeline of Little Planet. I like the usage of the instruments here though. The bongos are pretty good in this track. Some of the more caveman sounds in this track are very good too. And the vocals add to that final little feel where his time, whereas in the American version of Metallic Madness Pass, it does the final little feel with the vocals and the overall atmospheric feel of the track, whereas the Japanese version did the final little feel by being a bit ominous and mysterious and a bit dangerous in some parts. And they both complement each other on that as well. And overall, I'll say that KMS did a very good job with this track. And as far as weaknesses go, the Japanese version doesn't really fit the color of the stage in the foreground. The stage in the foreground has colors that are similar to the sky in Dawn, which is 7 to 8 a.m. for those that don't know what Dawn is. So I think it is a bit off-putting for that, but that's just a very small nitpick I have for this track. But I still do think this is obviously a very good fit for Metallic Madness Pass. I think this would fit the stage a bit more if it was maybe green. But that's just my opinion. But a criticism I do have, which people are going to take more seriously, is that I do think this song is very good, but I don't think it's as good as the Present Theme, which is very high up there. And that's all. But again, this is still a very good and well-made track. Whereas the American version of Metallic Madness Pass, I think the middle parts of the song aren't as strong as the intro, and that does make me lose a little bit of interest. It doesn't make me lose a whole lot of interest, but it does make me lose some interest. And that's really my only complaint with the US version. And one complaint that I probably would have made, but I actually couldn't go through fully, is that while the US version does use a lot of caveman-esque type of instruments such as bongos and whatnot, and some of the percussion, I can exonerate it from that criticism because Metallic Madness American soundtrack routinely uses bongos, which are typically seen as low technologically advanced instruments, which again, it would probably add more to the feel of the stage, but I would exonerate it from that criticism of it being a little bit too prehistoric for what is supposed to be the most technologically advanced area of the prehistoric Little Planet. Now, as for deciding a winner for this track, this was actually a very interesting development from last year to now. Last year, I had the Japanese soundtrack winning this track by a reliable margin. But as time progressed, this track has been getting closer and closer and closer. And it is officially within a point. And it may even be within half a point. So instead of being like around a 2-point victory for the Japanese soundtrack, it is now within a point and could realistically go to the American soundtrack. Now, with that being said, I still think that there is a common winner for this track, but I wouldn't be surprised if things change in the future. But this was a very interesting development from this being an easy Japanese soundtrack win to being a close round. But I think the winner of round 6, Metallic Madness Past, is the Japanese soundtrack. But it is very surprisingly close, in which I don't know what the final margin of victory is here, but it is surprisingly close. But I do think the Japanese soundtrack wins Metallic Madness Past. So with that being said, the Japanese soundtrack will go on to winning the 6th round, Metallic Madness Past, which the score will now be tied in a few seconds. The score is officially neck to neck. 3 for the Japanese soundtrack and 3 for the American soundtrack. The Japanese soundtrack has completely made up its deficit that it had in episode 4 via a late game boost, which, as I said before, the late game boost is real. It's real and it's effective, and the Japanese soundtrack could reliably ride on that late game boost and win the entire passing comparison series. It is also a reality that the US version could end up winning the entire passing series, and the Japanese soundtrack doesn't completely get that late game boost to win. But it is nonetheless just as close as Season 1 and Season 2 so far. But with that being said, let's go to the world map and see the scores, which there's a lot of them. Future. The world map is getting very filled up now. The American soundtrack has won Honji Panic, Collision Chaos, and Quartz Quadrant Pass in this entire comparison series so far, whereas the Japanese soundtrack has won titled Tempest, Stardust Speedway, and Metallic Madness Pass so far in the entire comparison series. Both soundtracks have 3 rounds, and it's all on to Wacky Workbench Past to decide who wins the entire comparison series on this channel. I hope you guys stay tuned for that conclusion for Wacky Workbench in the past theme, as that one will decide who wins the entire past theme series overall. I hope a lot of you guys actually do tune in to see that, because I am going to be very, very excited to see how this all turns out. And with that being said, I hope you are having a good night if you're watching this at nighttime, and I hope you're having a good rest of the day if you're watching this in daytime. And to all, God bless you. See you later.